Hello and welcome to another garage video. It's been quite a while. I thought what I would do today is, or tonight, do the Supra Story part 2, and this is probably going to be a fairly long video, and I'm going to be explaining this car pretty much start to finish, all its mods that are worth talking about, and yeah, just letting you guys know where it's sort of at. So, yeah, if you haven't seen the Supra Story video part 1, that's got quite a few views. That's in on my channel. That explains how I got into Supras and everything. But what I'm going to do is an updated video of that, explaining all the mods and covering some things I left out in that last video, and covering some mods that I've done since then, which was I think about 2 years ago since that last video. So yeah, I'll start from the sort of front to back, and I'll also cover things in the time period that I had to do things. So when something broke, I had to change it. Yeah, so the car is originally a 1994 SZ Supra that had a couple of little options extra. It had the A01B LSD from factory. It had a W58, so it was originally a manual. It no longer has the W58, it has a T56 Magnum, which we'll get into. And yeah, it was basically stock when I got it. However, by stock I mean I'm the third owner in Australia, and the original imported owner put a Aristo 2JZ GTE engine in it, twin turbo, completely stock, and he put that to the W58 with the stock computer from the Aristo, and there's a bit of wiring weirdness going on there, but it worked, and I bought it like that. So yeah, it was basically all stock, sort of like an RZ, a stock RZ, but it was a SZ, and it had a W58 instead of a V160 6-speed gearbox. Anyway, I bought it like that, and it was a good car. The car was in terrible shape when I bought it. It had 68,000 Ks on it, which I didn't believe were real, but upon inspection and looking at the complete lack of rust in it, I was led to believe it. The amount of kilometres on the engine are unknown. However, I believe they would be less when I pulled it apart, less than 120,000 easily. We'll get to that. So, yeah, it was an SZ originally when I bought it. It was in terrible condition. The paint was awful. It had really orange. The headlights were terrible, like they were faded to the Max Series 1s. It had a stock lip, it had a stock wing, and it had some really, really bad home job painted BBS 17-inch wheels. So the first thing I did was buy these new wheels when I got it back to my place. It had a lot of other problems as well. The clutch was terrible. The exhaust was half missing. The radiator was the factory SZ radiator and only one of the thermos worked, which was a problem. It had a weird air intake set up and to the twins, and it was just sucking in hot air with a really bootleg air filter. Yeah, so I cleaned it all up. It was missing parts of the interior. It was missing boot carpet. It didn't have an ashtray. The driver's side power window regulator was broken, and they had a piece of 2x4 wood jammed up in here to keep the window up, so I removed that and replaced it so the power window works again. Yeah, it was missing boot carpet and all that, so I replaced that. I'm still not happy with it. I think I got the Series 2 carpet instead of Series 1. But anyway, so I drove it around. I got it on the road for $10,000, which was a bargain. I bought it originally for $5,500. So getting it all up and running and to where it was to get it legalized and everything sort of working, all good. The plates I had from a previous car, and then I had an overheating issue. So I replaced pretty much everything. I got a new radiator, not this radiator. This is the second radiator I've had. Whoop. My gimbal just had a freak out. So I had an overheating issue. Replaced the radiator, a water pump, thermostat, pretty much everything cooling system wise to try and correct overheating issue I was having. And the overheating issue was kind of strange. When I first bought it, it would take about 2 hours, then it would start overheating, and it just run out of coolant. It'd just the boil coolant out into the overflow, and it was like a typical head gasket issue, but I couldn't figure it out. So it had no oil in the water, no water in the oil, blah blah blah. So I replaced everything, tried to fix it, and none of that seemed to help it. So I thought, well, the head's got an issue. So I took the head off, took the head to a head shop in Brisbane, and they said, the head has failed a metallurgy test, which means the alloy in the head has gone soft, so it wasn't making a good seal between the head gasket and the block, and that would have been from the previous owner overheating it quite a lot, or more than once, So I went through a lot of drama trying to source a new head. Anyway, Toyota luckily started remanufacturing heads, and this is a USDM head, not a JDM head, which is slightly different, which means it's got a exhaust outlet port on number 6 cylinder, which I had to block off. And I don't know if I can show you guys that. No, probably not. But there's basically just a hole straight out the back of number 6 cylinder that it's supposed to go to an EGR system, and I had to block that off because it's part of the emissions rules in America, whatever. But it works fine. You can buy those EGR block-off plates easily on eBay. So I put that in, all good, put it all back together, and it still had the twin turbo set up then, so I got rid of that, and I've put the single Precision 6262 Generation 2 turbo on it. I think it's a 0.86 rear or something, or 0.86 whatever, and with it sitting on a 6 boost manifolds with a Golby's heat beanie, 3-inch exhaust with a 50mm Progate Turbo Smart Progate light wastegate that goes down into a 2-inch screamer. Hence the louder number plates. It's quite loud on boost when it hits peak boost. So anyway, I eventually got the headlights all done. They were all custom. The lenses are by Dixter Lenses over in the US. I got the chrome rings, which you can no longer get from that surround the headlights from a guy in the UK. Excuse the dirtiness of the car, I haven't cleaned it. And I got them the halos from Dan's Custom Headlights in Brisbane, Australia, and I got him to put them together and paint the Series 1 headlights. So yeah, and they're switchback halos, so they go with the indicators as well, which is quite cool. Yeah, new battery, alternator. I got a ATI balancer because the old one was looking a bit rough. Me and a couple of my mates made this heat shield here, which is gimbal again. Really good. It works really awesome to stop blocking the heat to getting to the master cylinders and the air filter here. The exhaust is also heat wrapped with DEI titanium heat wrap. The manifold is not wrapped though because I didn't want to void my warranty. Still has the factory intake, Golby's cam gears, ARP 2000 head studs, brand new head, stock cams, stock bottom end, original bottom end, because when I pulled it apart, when I had the head issue, the factory hone marks were really good looking, the pistons looked really good, everything looked really good, so there was no point in playing with the bottom end because it was a low kilometre engine. By the look of it anyway, so I did that. That was over 20,000 kilometres ago with this single turbo setup, and I haven't had an issue with it yet, so it's been really good. I ditched all the twin turbo gear, just put a K&N filter on the air intake idle air control valve, and so not too much craziness stuff going on with the engine. I mean, there's an intercooler. The car came with an intercooler, I believe. It's a eBay intercooler. So all I did when I got the single turbo was this custom intercooler piping here to match up with it. And it's got a Davies Craig Thermo fan controller, which is it took me a while to set up because I'm running two Aeroflow curved blade 12-inch curved blade fans on here, and they do the job. I have absolutely given this thing a hard time on hot days, and it hasn't overheated or even come close to it. I've got the Thermo controller kicking in at I think it's about 84 degrees. I haven't checked, but I'll turn it on and have a look. And the Thermo controller sensor is just in here underneath the in the fins of the radiator, underneath the outlet from the engine to the radiator. It has a Mishimoto thermostat, 68 degree thermostat, but the car likes to generally run at 90 degrees Celsius, which is totally fine, and you're pretty much fine up to about 115 to 118 degrees, depending on what kind of coolant you have, and I've never had a real issue with that, so it's been really good. I've had it up to my temperature gauge inside goes up to 120 or 125, and I've had some real hot day mountain runs and stuff like that, and I haven't had an issue. I've got a Gates timing belt in there as well. All new sensors pretty much everywhere. Cam position, crank angle sensor, knock sensors, the whole lot. So I've got the radiator cooling panel from Next Level Motorsport. For those that have been following me recently, I finally got my new front lip. It'll be getting painted and put on soon because I cracked this one over here. I had to put the heat sleeve on the throttle body cable here that you can see running across because the heat was getting to it, making it sticky. Put that on, removed that problem 100%, and it's got all new water pump, fan belts, tensioner. Basically everything on this is brand new except the cams and the bottom end. So also I got it also has a oil cooler, It's a Golby's 16-row oil cooler or something like that. It sits down underneath the headlight here. You might be able to see it if I can get the thing in there. You can see one of the hoses for it there, but my light isn't quite good enough. And yeah, it sits in there with a couple of lines running across, and I've also got a Mokel oil cooler thermostat in there. So it's like a sandwich plate, and the oil filter sits on the top of it with the two lines going out of it down to the oil cooler, and it's got a thermostat in it that only allows it to flow through the oil cooler when the oil is up to temperature, which is awesome, and it helps especially in winter. It'll really help the car heat up faster and things like that. It's just the best thing. And it also keeps the oil at the right viscosity. The thermostat in that keeps it at the right temperature to flow through the oil cooler. So if I'm having a real hot time and I'm doing a track day or something, it'll be fully open, cooling the oil. However, if it's like winter and I'm starting the car and I'm just doing normal driving, it'll regulate that oil so that the oil is always at the right viscosity when I'm just driving around normally. I've just got a strut brace here, adjustable, standard strut brace. I don't know, no brand. It does the job, not a big deal. K&N 9-inch filter with a 4-inch outlet. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Standard injectors, standard fuel line, standard fuel rail, standard computer running all this as well. The only thing I've changed, and it's been like this for over 20,000 kilometres of very, prominent driving. The only thing I've changed fuel system wise is a Walbro 255 in-tank fuel pump. I've got a HKS EVC6 electronic boost controller to control the boost for this, and I'm limited by the computer to 14 psi, so that leaves me at no more than about 415 horsepower to the wheels. So anyway, moving along, we've got DTS. Oh, come on, gimbal, don't do this to me again. There we go. DTM Rush 18-inch wheels. They are 8.5 on the front, 9.5 on the rear. I've also got some Bendix DBA. I've got some DBA 4000 rotors, front and rear, and I've got some Bremtech carbon. I think they're called hybrid carbon pads. Anyway, they're very good. They're brand new. Still got the standard Blistine suspension, which I'd like to change soon to some good coilovers. The tyres on the front are 235, and I've got 255 rears. They're just cheap Chinese things because of how I drive. The fronts aren't too bad. The rears are pretty shitty. They were really cheap. I've painted the trim here that goes down. Normally that's all black where it goes down along the side here, and up like below that line there, that's normally black. And also this rear pod has been painted white. Yeah, so I mechanically pretty much that covers the engine. Once we get to the gearbox, I did replace the clutch when I first got it with a DCS single plate clutch that was rated to 400 horsepower, and that lasted a while, but it wasn't quite enough for my power output, and it started slipping eventually. So I still drove it around like that, didn't give it a hard time too much. And eventually the W58 blew up in third gear doing a soft pull, so I just rolled onto it and it just let go. And I knew it was going to happen one day because those W58 gearboxes are glass. So that blew up and I replaced it with a T56, a brand new T56 Magnum with an ACE twin plate clutch, which has I believe a carbon front disc and a composite it might be a composite front and a carbon rear or something like that with it's buttoned, and it's actually really nice to drive, quite easy, very grabby, not heavy, no heavier than a standard clutch, but very grabby, or maybe a fraction heavier, but when you pop it out it just puts the power down like it's nothing. So yeah, brand new T56. It's got a video speedometer output converter, so that hooks up to the speedometer so I get accurate speed. I have a switch for the reverse lockout on the interior, which I'll show you now actually. And while we're here, carbon fibre door sills. Excuse me while I get in. But yeah, we have there's a few things done to the interior. I'll just flick on the thing here so you can have a look. So the factory tachometer, because it works off a Davies, isn't functional with an electronic ignition, so I've replaced that with a auto gauge autometer, and from the driver's seat it's mint. It lights up quite nice and looks really good, and you can adjust the red line on it. All the other gauges work fine. I'm now on 119,000 Ks. I've got the red LED HVAC light conversion, which is hard to see here. Anyway, and I've put in a boost gauge, autometer boost gauge, and autometer water temperature gauge. For the reverse lockout, we've got, oh, come on gimbal, come on, work with me here. Oh, it's not having it. So if I want to go to reverse, all I need to do, flick that button and it allows me to get into reverse gear, or that switch actually. This switch was already in the car when I bought it. It was for the Thermos that they had dodgily hooked up, but it had a good relay and power to it, so I've used it to give me some lighting to the gauges and to power the switch here. This switch here is just for the my halos for the daytime running lights. So if I flick that on, it turns on the running lights, which will probably be quite bright and blow out the camera here. Oh, it's not too bad. But if I turn on the headlights, it dims them slightly. Or if I don't have that switch on and I turn the headlights on, they come on anyway, but they're dimmer. And if I turn on the indicator, which I'll just do now, it'll activate the switchback feature. So it keeps it legal. Weirdly, my fog light is lit up green. Normally they don't work. I do have aftermarket coloured fog lights, but they don't normally work that well, but they seem to be today. Or just cheap Chinese things. But they're quite good, and then when you're not indicating, it just goes back to normal white. Yeah, so the gearbox is amazing. It's a huge upgrade. It's probably the best gearbox. If you still want a manual H-pattern gearbox, if you don't have a V160 equipped Supra, this is cheaper and stronger. This holds 200 foot-pound more torque than a V160. A V160 is good for about 500 or maybe 550 foot-pound. These are factory new good for 700 foot-pound, and they can be modified to hold up to 1200 foot-pound of torque, which is crazy numbers. The stereo is it's a Pioneer Bluetooth. I think it's a 5150. Yeah, 5150. It accepts USB video. It takes like Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, all that. However, this is the older model which doesn't do that wirelessly, so if you want to use Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, you have to, oh come on gimbal, you have to connect your phone to it through a cable, but it is HD video and things like that. It's pretty cool like that. I've got Rockford Fosgate speakers all around. I've got Rockford Fosgate 6.5-inch speakers in the front, which are 3-way speakers, and in the back I've got I think they're 5-inch or 4.5 or something like that, 2-way speakers. The sound system in this is amazing. It sounds really good, although the exhaust pretty much overpowers it. Over here we've got the HKS EVC, which is a bit hard to see because my gimbal's playing up. Just stand by. Right, so we've got the EVC here, which basically controls how much power this thing makes. It works amazingly well. It took me a long time to tune it. I can't get my camera in there enough, but I hit a peak of about 13.5 boost, 13.5 psi of boost. I have a high and low boost setting. 10 is low and 13 is high. I've got a 7-pound wastegate spring in there, so I can't go below 7. But this works really, really well. It just ramps it up, and I'm hitting full boost before, about 3,500 RPM, if that, maybe 3. Well, full boost at 14. I don't know what it's going to be like when it's finished, when I'm trying to target more than 24 or 5 pounds, so it should be interesting. Yeah, otherwise interior is pretty stock, just some LED lights, TRD racing development sticker, or metal aluminium engraved thing. I had to replace the ashtray, that's new. Glow box works and all that. I've just got some footwell lights as well, which look quite nice. They're that very bluey UV light colour. Yeah, moving back, we've got Trd Wing. I'll put that on with a couple of mates of mine. Real carbon fibre end caps and plate. It's a Chinese copy, but it's exactly the same. The fitment's good. If you take this off, there's adjustment screws in here, and you can adjust the angle of the blade. I've got mine on maximum angle at the moment, which makes a noticeable difference actually when you're giving it a hard time on high speed corners at anything over probably 120. The speakers are powered by JL Audio 4-channel amp, which is hidden behind here, and this is just a Fusion 12-inch ported subwoofer that came with its own gimbal, with its own active amp. I put the LEDs in just behind here and hooked them up to the amp for power, for light. Just got a tool kit there, and just in case anything happens, and a few other bits and bobs under the carpet. We've got a 3-inch exhaust straight through that comes down to a DEA stainless steel muffler. It's an angle cut thing. It's 4.5-inch tip that you can fit a silencer into, so it's not bad. I used to have a HKS Canon on here, but this one's very filthy at the moment, so please forgive me. I think the HKS one was pretty good. It used to maybe sound a bit buzzier. It was quite nice. This one's a bit of a deeper note, so it's pretty much the same, and it still sounds really good. So anyway, I replaced the boot struts and the stops on both sides here because it used to rattle when I first got it. Luckily I got them when I did, because I don't think Toyota makes them anymore. Yeah, what else? Oh, the differential. I've got. The car did come with an A01B differential. If you can see that there, W58 A01B. That was the. So that was the factory one-way Torsen LSD, which I didn't mind. A lot of people don't seem to like it. They think it's a bit too unpredictable, but I liked it. I'm used to it, but I might be biased because I've been driving Supras since for 15 years, and it's all I know, and I like drifting and things like that, so I'm used to it. However, they can catch people off guard. The mechanical nature of it is quite aggressive, but it's all right. Anyway, I managed to strip the gears that drive the worm gears on that through axle tramps. So I replaced the diff center with a Cusco RS 1.5 weight, which is amazing, and it absolutely changed how the car behaves when you're carrying on. It's awesome. It is way more predictable, but it's almost a bit too aggressive. I do have it set at 100% and 50%. If I could recommend it, if you've got a street car and you're not drifting, probably get it set to 80% and 50, or even 60% and 50, because it's just so aggressive. Just going through car parks with any load, it's like having a locker until the diff warms up, and the diff oil's quite warm. I got Bendix handbrake shoes, new ones, to help with my entries drifting. Although I haven't really tested them too much yet, but it seems to work quite well. I've locked it up at 100, no worries. So yeah. I think we've sort of covered most of the things here. There's a few more things I'd like to do in the future. Obviously, one of the first things is new suspension. I'm at that point now where the suspension is one of the last big things I need to do, because it's 26 odd years old and it's just garbage. So I need to just get some coilovers, which I'll probably get some MCAs or HSDs. And then from there, just more power really, and better tyres. These tyres are okay, but they're not going to do any good on a track day. They're fine for driving on the street, but I'd like some 255 fronts and 255 rears, either Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, not the 4S, just the 4s, because I do a lot of kilometres and I live rurally, or Eagle Goodyear asymmetric 5, Eagle F1 asymmetric 5s. So apparently they're better than, they're the new ones that are trying to beat the Pilot Sport 4s. So either one of those, whatever, I'd be happy with. Just good, really the top of the line sports tyres. So they're good for track days and street use and wet weather driving. And then otherwise, it's just more power. So this turbo's rated to 705 horsepower. So I'm not going for that much. I don't want to peak the turbo or anything. And I'm not planning on running on E85 ever. So I'd be happy with about 600 to 650, which should totally be doable with this setup. The only thing I'll need to change is get some bigger injectors, bigger fuel pump, or add another fuel pump, and get a fuel pressure regulator and a Haltech Elite 2000 ECU. Yeah, and I'd be happy with 600 horsepower. 400's good for the street, but I mean, if I did have 600, I'd probably never really use 600 unless I was showing it off to my mates or at a track day. But for normal driving, I'd still turn it down and try and run at about 500 or less. So, because my another good thing about this car is I get amazing fuel economy out of this. With a 60 litre tank, if I drive normally, I'll get about 700 litres out of a tank. If I give it a hard time and do city driving, I might be lucky to get about 550 to 600. So yeah, I've still got the 450cc injectors. I will be going to about 750s or maybe 850s, depending on what's cheaper or available for a factory rail, or if it's cheaper to get a whole new rail that fits on the standard manifold. So yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I haven't got that far. I don't know about tuning it. I don't know if I'm going to street tune it or actually take it to a dyno tuning place yet, just because this is a budget build, and I just sort of like proving a point with it because of how much money I've spent on it and what it and what I originally bought it for. It's already insured for almost double than what it owes me, and it's I could sell it for probably triple what it owes me. So it's a great unit. I just haven't had time to make a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff. I've just been trying to do this whole shed and that. But this new lip will be going on soon, and that'll look nice. And hopefully next year I'll be really putting some time into it and making it a bit more of a built thing. Oh, I also got new slides to pull the bumper in, bar slides here that sit behind there. I think I mentioned that in another video. But anyway, yeah, I've got some genuine Toyota bar slides here just to make the front bumper fit right. Yeah, and I'm actually thinking about changing my main headlight bulbs from the LEDs to 10,000K HIDs to give it that nice blue look, but we'll see how we go. Oh yeah, that's right, I was going to talk about the temperature on the Davies Craig controller. So it's 20 degrees right now in here, and I haven't actually played with this a long time. So I believe if I push that, yeah, so it's set on 80 degrees. And that's what I found worked the best. And I've said that a long time ago, and it's been perfect since. So it'll kick in at 80, and it'll kick one fan on, drop it 5 degrees. If it doesn't it wants to get it down 10 degrees, and then if it doesn't get down 10 degrees, it'll kick the other fan in, and it'll keep going until it's at 70 degrees. So anyway, that's the latest on the Supra. Actually, because it's at 119,000 Ks, I've got a big service due, so I'm going to change spark plugs. Super Cheap don't sell NGK spark plugs anymore, so I don't know what I'm going to change them to. I'm going to have to pick another brand, and I don't like Autolite, so I'm hoping I can get some Bosch equivalent copper spark plugs that are the same as the NGK BKR6ES spark plugs. Just the standard coppers is all I use. They're awesome, and I change them every time I change the oil. Yeah, so I've got a big service coming up. I'm going to have to do spark plugs, oil, engine oil, filter, gearbox oil, and diff oil. So she'll be super fresh and minty. ready to go. But yeah, if anyone knows what the Bosch equivalent copper spark plugs are that are this exact same as a BKR 6E, not the 6ES, but just the BKR 6E copper or even a BKR 7E. I've tried BKR 7Es in here, but the 6Es are a bit better, a bit less laggy. But if anyone knows the model number for those new spark plugs, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to have to jump on that endeavour of research to find out what the Bosch equivalent are. And I'm not a fan of platinum, so forget that. Anyway, alright, have a good time. This car probably won't be driven. It might be driven to the Super Club Christmas cruise if this lip gets painted in time and I service it. Otherwise, until then, she'll be locked away until next year. And hopefully next year will be a year of progress on this. So if you've got any super questions or anything like that, ask me in the comments. I'll try and help you out as best as I can. And yeah, have a good one. Have a happy new year and a lovely Christmas. And I'll see you next year, guys. Thank you for watching. If you stayed this long, it's been a pleasure.